Hi guys, welcome to another one of these videos. What I want to talk about today is this term I came up with called primary perception interference. And what this is referring to is how when we try to create certain perceptions, like say friendliness, how often our usual way of perceiving will interfere with that. So, creating different perceptions, it's a huge part of what I teach. And it's also kind of a big part of what the Buddha used to teach as well, and many other traditions would teach as well. So in Buddhism, the perceptions that the Buddha would often encourage was what's called the Brahma Viharas, which would include things like loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. The problem I found though was that when I would try to create those perceptions, it would really be a struggle for me. And I eventually kind of realized what was going on. And one thing that actually helped me was my experiences of learning Thai. I've been here in Thailand nearly 2 decades now, but my kind of journey learning Thai was a real struggle for many of those years. But then, I suppose about 7 years ago, I met this great, really helpful teacher called Stuart J. Raj, and he's a polyglot. And one of the ideas he kind of introduced to me, and a very important and a kind of real game changer for me, was this idea of first language interference. And what that is that when we try to speak in a foreign language, we tend to use our kind of English voice box, or our English way of communicating. And obviously our way of communicating has got, it's already kind of got a certain rhythm to it. It's got a certain, also we're kind of, our voice box is kind of, it's used to making particular sounds. And so if we try to create a foreign language using that same system, it usually doesn't work. And worse than that, what I found because of this kind of first language interference is that I was completely oblivious to it, because what I was saying would actually feel right. So I would say something in Thai and it would feel as if I'd said it perfectly, but because I didn't notice that, that first language interference. And part of the part of speaking in our kind of normal way of speaking is that it does feel right. So that can kind of really not only kind of cause a problem, but even prevent us from kind of recognizing the problem. And so learning about this kind of first language interference, it was such a great help for me in kind of changing my way of speaking Thai and learning Thai. I also found though that the exact same thing applies to working with perceptions. So what I would do is when I would say try to create this perception of friendliness, like doing the loving kindness practice, what I was really doing is I was trying to kind of put that perception on top of my usual perception. And my usual perception over years of kind of development, of practice, have become one that was very, very negative and kind of, not very trusting. And so I was trying to put something new on top of that was always going to, very, very kind of unbalanced and unstable. And what I had to learn to do was to practice these perceptions as a completely separate perception. So going back to learning Thai, what I had to actually do was actually almost develop a separate personality, like a different role that I would kind of pop into when I was speaking Thai, and that allowed me to kind of have a brand new slate, a clean slate, let's say. And the same applies with this. So what we really want to be doing when developing new perceptions is to actually, use it, almost like method acting, that we actually inhabit a different role. So, like for example, say we have memories of being a young child, and we remember as a young child we were very friendly. We can actually kind of imagine being that old us again, and that can help us, do the friendliness practice to kind of create that perception of friendliness or whatever it is we want to create. So for a lot of us, say if we normally have a perception of being kind of not being very confident, and then we try to create the perception of confidence on top of that perception, our usual perception, that's probably not going to work, and it's going to not only feel unnatural, it's going to come across as very unnatural. This is why I say to people, like say with going back to friendliness, don't act friendly, be friendly. So you need to create that perception of being friendly, or create that perception of confidence, and to be that perception. And you can't simply put it on top of your usual perception, because that will just create this primary perception interference. See, the thing about perception, there's nothing actually true about our usual way of perceiving. That's just our habitual way of perceiving. It just seems so to us because we practice it so often. That's the only thing that makes it. So of course that will have a certain hold over us, a certain sway over us. And what we want to be doing is to create something new, not just simply add something onto that, which is unlikely to kind of take hold because there's too much kind of going against it. So to really use our imagination to create a completely different a different way of looking. So we can, as I say with that sense of friendliness, you can remember it, and if we can't remember it in our own history, to kind of think of some character who embodies friendliness with us, embodies friendliness for us, and basically, use our imagination to kind of experience from that character's perspective. Also, doing it this way, it makes it, because we're kind of using another character, it kind of weakens our kind of identifying with it. You can kind of see it more as just an object that we're experiencing. Because we don't want to identify with any perception. We want this ability to kind of move between perceptions, because there actually, there isn't one perception that's always appropriate. Sometimes we have to kind of move. Sometimes we need to kind of have this perception of being, secure and in charge. Sometimes we need this perception of being friendly. Sometimes we need this perception of what I call a more dreamlike perception. And the real skill is learning to navigate between them and not really identify with any. So seeing them as kind of objects, seeing them as things that are kind of that we're doing, like we're imagining, it makes it easier to do that and not get attached to any particular one. So, this is something I'll be talking about a lot more in future practices, because this whole using the imagination or the imaginal work has been such a helpful thing for me and such a game changer for me. So, guys, thanks very much for watching. Do give a like, do leave a comment, and really go to town and make my day by subscribing. And thanks to all the people who have subscribed. I'm really, that's brilliant. Thank you. It does mean something to me. Okay, guys, take it easy.